An executive told me one time, he said, Oscar, the reason that the black filmmakers are having so much trouble is because we whites got to protect our jobs and our families, etc. He said, look what you guys did to baseball. Look at the salaries they're making. Look what you guys did to basketball. Look what you did to boxing. If you guys did that to filmmaking, we'd be out. I said, that's not true. We'd all be making more films. We may even be making better films. And the investors would make more money. The theaters would be full. He said, no, we're worried about our jobs, so therefore we're going to keep you guys out. And it's the long and the short of it. It's the long and the short of it. We're talking about economics. You know, you take an actor like, let's say, Sidney Poitier. This guy was a box office draw for so many years. Then all of a sudden, blacks can't make it in film. Forget about it. Blacks don't make films that make money. Now Richard Pryor, he is so much in demand, he's booked up for the next 5 years. Everyone says, that was lucky. It was a phenomena. Here comes Eddie Murphy. Now he's booked up. So the phenomena that we talk about in Hollywood, that's all in our heads. That's to keep us holding on to what we've got so that you can't get in. Unfortunately, the blacks are visible. So when you say you can't get in and you speak about blacks, you can point to a color. The same thing applies to young white filmmakers. They don't let them in either, unless they're family or relative. They got to fight too. Women, they got to fight. It's Hollywood holding on to its established order so that no one else can get in and get a piece of that money. There is no difference between black exploitation and white exploitation. You see, it is quickly. There was a writer named John Killens. He told me a story one time about a young man and his father, a boy and his father. And the young boy said, Dad, every time I read a book about the man and the lion, the man always wins. But Dad, I always thought that the lion was the baddest cat in the jungle. And the father said, son, when the lion learns to write, he'll win. If you looked at the genre of film that this came from, I Was a Fugitive from the Chain Gang, Little Caesar, they were just as violent as these films. But understand why these films are called violent or more violent. You take Little Caesar and you make it with a black cast, it becomes a violent film. It's because of what we bring to it sociologically. I saw a film the other day where Al Pacino, who I went to school with in the Bronx, New York, is cursing and there's a lot of blood and violence, but no one calls that a bloody black exploitation film. I saw other films, Deer Hunter. If you had a black cast in the Deer Hunter, it would have been called black exploitation. So you have to understand that we, the audience, and I'm saying we, and look at me, we, the white audience, we are bringing something to this film, and when we look at it, these blacks fighting with guns, we say this is dangerous and this is violent. Understanding that, you either forget it and proceed, or you take it for what it is. You can go ahead and make your film. An industry, let's talk about Hollywood. Hollywood may not be interested in new talents coming up. They say they are, but with every new talent, you got a potential new Redford that you got to deal with. New De Niro that you got to deal with. You don't be pushing them around. You don't push them around when they get to that level. So you don't really want them to come through. You got enough of them to deal with. How would you like to have 5 Burt Reynolds to deal with, 5 Sidney Poitiers to deal with, 5 Diana Rosses to deal with, 5 Barbra Streisand to deal with? You got 1, that's enough. So you don't really want those directors coming up and through, those actors coming up and through, and then you black ones too? How many Richard Pryors do you want to have to deal with? It's hard enough to deal with the one. But you got to deal with him because every time you deal with him, he makes you a lot of money. You got to deal with him. You have to deal with him because he is the essence of why you are at work. So you've got to deal with him. You don't want any more. Now, with a Robert Redford, you can sit across the table and look at him. He looks like you. So you can say, well, let's make a deal and let's talk. And I'll give you $10 million, $5 million to go make a movie. Stallone, okay. You don't like me, Stallone. I don't like you. I'll give you $10 million. But when that actor is black, and you got to give him $5 million, not only doesn't he like you, you don't like him, it hits you in the pit of your stomach because it's a big money business. And in order to keep people out, you simply put up barriers. The barriers for blacks are easy because you can see black because they are black. And with blacks, you don't have to be nice, polite. You can just kick them out the way. And who's going to complain? Who's going to say anything? Until the blacks start to do their own thing and make money at it so that it becomes part of the social and economic and political system, whether we're talking film or any other business, nothing's going to happen. No one gives any person in any society anything. They've got to take it. Every single person out there who has a family, a house, no one gave it to them. They had to go and work for it. The difference is, if they're being cut off by exclusion, if they're being discriminated against so that they cannot own their house, have their families, feed their families, then that's criminal. That's criminal. That's not part of any system, whether it's a democratic system, a socialist system. That's criminal. And maybe we are dealing with a society run, formed, operated by criminals. I don't know. But it is criminal. And not only do I know and other blacks know, whites know it's criminal. So it's I know that he knows that I know it's criminal. And that's where we're at. Things will get better if those blacks not only persevere, but persevere in a conscious, methodical, and in some ways devious, and I don't want to say terroristic, but devious way. When I say devious, I mean you just can't go out there with a good script because you're a good black filmmaker. You've got to be able to then put some other things into play. You've got to call some godfathers that you know on the inside. You've got to take an entity that is an established entity, align yourself with it. You've got to then also come up with something that's so good and so valuable that the established order wants it. Excuse me. And once they want it, then you've got a hook. You can't, if you're a black filmmaker or any other minority, if you're a woman filmmaker, if you're an Indian, if you're Asian, you can't just go in there with a good property and expect it to get done. You have to come in there with what's considered the second element of your being. First element is what you're going to do. Okay? First element, what you're going to do. Second element, how you're going to get it done. Minorities have that, and it's always present. Women have it. Women look at things in a man's world like this. I'm going to do this. Second, how am I going to get it done? Where white males just, I'm going to do this, and they do it. But minorities have another level of consciousness that is always present. Number one, what am I going to do? Number two, how am I going to get it done? I think it's going to happen because it's economical necessity. How long can I keep someone starving away from food if the food is on the table and we're both in there and he has the same opportunity to get arms, whatever that arms, whatever that means, whether it's a physical gun, a bomb, my throat, his throat. How long can I keep him away from that table if, number one, he's hungry, number two, my market is shrinking?